Hello and welcome to the Build Better Homes podcast. I'm your host, Royal Mortier, and with me in the studio today is Shaun Carpentier. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Oh, it's another beautiful day. It's another beautiful day down here in wonderful Florida. So, give you guys some insight. Shaun and I met both of our children trained jiu-jitsu and got to chatting with him, and with us having a background, myself having a background in doing some building forensics and working with restoration contractors and stuff, Shaun actually has a significant background in restoration. And I thought this would be a great learning experience for everybody to kind of hear about what he has done in his career, provide some pointers, and talk about what he's doing today. So, well, let's just start right from the beginning. What was kind of your entry into restoration and construction work, my good sir?
So it didn't start with restoration or construction. It really started with carpet cleaning. And I got into carpet cleaning because I went to a private school, and one of the teachers had a carpet cleaning company, and he threw his back out. I was 14 and I had a back, so I was a perfect candidate, mainly because I had a back that worked.
Oh, okay.
So I got into carpet cleaning. Then when I moved from California to Florida, got into carpet cleaning again right around the time Hurricane Ivan hit. And by right around, I mean 10 days after Ivan hit. So did a little bit of restoration at that time. But then that company really didn't do much. Mm-hmm. Then 2008 hit, and I was sitting there looking at, wow, we do carpet cleaning. This may not be the best industry for a recession. Mm-hmm. So that's when I started moving the company into doing more of water damage restoration, just the dry out, the mitigation side of things, not full construction. And then that kind of led me to, slowly getting into the construction side, then leaving that company and starting a full restoration company that, did significant amounts of construction. So that was kind of the progression of carpet cleaning to mitigation to full restoration. And really most of the people in the restoration industry come from one of two things, either from general construction or from carpet cleaning. It's kind of the feeder of what gets everybody into it seems.
Right. So one of the things I think may be helpful to clarify is there's the cleanup, there's the mitigation after a disastrous event happens. And then there's the restoration side of it, and that's actually putting things back together. So can you kind of provide some examples of that separation?
So there's the mitigation and the reconstruction, which combined is the full restoration project. So you've got on the mitigation side, it's going to be, say it's a water damage. Sewage backs up into a house. You need to come in, remove any of the porous materials, remove any of the drywall that's affected, remove the carpet, flooring, that type of stuff. Then you need to clean and disinfect the remaining, structural materials. And then you need to dry those out to get the moisture that shouldn't be in there out of them. Mm-hmm. Those are really going to be your mitigation steps. So the mitigation is to prevent things from getting any worse and bring it, sanitary, bring the sanitization back, bring it back to a safe environment. Then your reconstruction is going to be, hey, put all of that stuff back.
Gotcha.
And, how the mitigation's done is very important for the reconstruction because, say we need to do 2-foot flood cuts throughout a house. If I go in there with a razor blade and start cutting around 2 feet, and some places it's 18 inches, some places it's 26 inches, that makes it a nightmare for the reconstruction phase. So it's important to understand the construction when you're doing the mitigation even, because there's me, when I started, I had no idea about the construction side. And the fact that, hey, even if I just cut drywall out at 24 inches, I just created a problem. Right. Because you got to cut it out at 24 and a half inches. That way there's a gap for the drywall on the bottom. If I cut it out at 24, now the construction crews have to cut it all over again.
Right. I gotcha. And there are companies that focus exclusively on mitigation and some that focus exclusively on reconstruction. And then there's the full gambit, the full envelope. Right?
Yeah, there's definitely companies, there's franchises, there's companies, independent companies that they do one or the other, or then the full service ones that do both. Mm-hmm. When I started, just the mitigation side, and then I helped a friend start just the reconstruction side, and then I partnered with him and we became full service. So my area of expertise is really the mitigation. That's where I started. That's what I like. That's what I enjoy the most. But then I, also went out and have multiple GC licenses.
Gotcha.
So, I first got my mold remediation license, then later got multiple GC licenses because I do like all of it, but mitigation's where I started. And I think it's beneficial, even, whether you do both or not is kind of irrelevant, but understanding both aspects of it is extremely important.
I gotcha.
Which is part of the reason so many guys that come out of the construction industry and want to get into insurance restoration fail very quickly because they don't understand the nuances or the differences with insurance restoration versus new home construction or remodel construction.
I gotcha. So yeah, let's kind of, I guess, hit on some of those nuances because, I mean, I've seen it, right? We've both seen it. I mean, I've been in this industry, I started in construction at 30 years ago, but we've seen these big franchises or these very large corporations grow and fall. The same thing with kind of the smaller ones. But there is a different mindset and a different business aspect you go at this when you're restoration versus construction, if you can kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so, a restoration firm versus a general construction firm, one is scaling and availability. Typically if I'm going to build a house, I'm going to get plans, I'm going to have drawings, I'm going to have permitting, I'm going to have all of this lead up time, I'm going to have time to order the cabinets, have time to order the windows. You have none of that in restoration.
Right.
This house caught on fire, they need back in it. There is no time for that. So that's one big aspect is the urgency and the difficulty with scheduling. The variability and having to be more flexible is a huge aspect of it. Another huge aspect is money. The way that you estimate is completely different. When you're building a house, you look at a wall and you're like, okay, I need drywall. Great. That's everything that has to do with drywall.
Right.
When you say paint a house, it's this is how much it is to paint it. But that painting also includes the caulking. It also includes the cleanup. It also includes the masking and taping if needed. When you're doing insurance restoration, when you give the insurance company that type of estimate, they look at it and have no idea what you're talking about. You're not talking the same language. When I give an insurance company an estimate and I want to paint the wall, it's 1 coat of primer, 2 coats of paint, and that's only on the wall that is new. If I'm painting, if I remove one wall and then I'm painting the walls next to it, well, those don't get those 3 coats. They're going to have less coats. But then I also charge for the caulking separately. I charge for each item I'm painting separately. So, I've got crown molding, I've got drywall, I've got base molding, I got shoe molding. That's 4 different items that I have to charge to paint independently. Whereas a regular general construction, I paint that wall, everything on that wall, and it's X dollars a square foot. So when you look at, hey, it's X dollars a square foot, or, sometimes that's even just square feet of floor space,
right?
Not even square foot of wall space. Whereas restoration, it's square foot of wall space plus linear foot of trim, crown, linear foot of base, linear foot of shoe molding. All of those are separate. So your price per square foot on new construction is going to be way higher than my price per square foot to do 3 coats of paint.
Yeah.
Because my price for 3 coats of paint is literally just that 1 square foot of drywall, right, and not all the other items that have to be done. So people will get into issues with that of not understanding that and knowing how to even present their estimate in a way that the insurance company can absorb it.
All right. So I've seen these contractors try and make the transition from construction to restoration. And the biggest thing that I see that kills them is the paperwork. And that's the biggest thing that really honestly drags out a lot of these projects. And these contractors that try and make this transition, they don't understand the paperwork drives everything with the insurance companies. And we even had cases where it was the contractor was doing all the right things. He just couldn't get the paperwork in the right spot, or he wasn't willing to wait the week and a half it would take for that insurance adjuster, to get back to the job site to look at the thing that he was saying, hey, we need to charge extra for this, and get approval for that beforehand. So I've seen it firsthand. One of the jokes that I was just bouncing around with some contractor friends of mine was, when people ask for a breakdown, they're just saying, well, it's $10,000 for me to do the job and $0 for me to not do the job. There's my breakdown. And whereas a $10,000 restoration project may have a
20-page estimate.
It's a 20-page estimate. Yeah, everything line item, and it's ridiculous. So, believe it or not, we've actually used the Xactimate estimates that some of the people we work with in restoration, we've used those Xactimate estimates, their sketch and their takeoffs, to actually start developing our plans before I could even get somebody out there to confirm all the measurements and stuff. But they're so detailed.
Yeah, I did a government, multiple fire stations, and I had my estimate in Xactimate for the mitigation. They just took that and reverse engineered it for the initial plans for the reconstruction. Because the reconstruction had to be bid, the mitigation didn't because it was under a declared emergency. So, but they just took my estimate, and basically where I removed drywall, they just put replace drywall and used my exact estimate. It didn't work perfectly, but it was a great starting point.
Yeah.
And with like restoration, one of the things, I had an adjuster jump all over me because I was replacing a ceiling, and they're like, hey, there's an attic access in that ceiling. You need to remove that drywall. I'm like, what? It's that I've got to remove that 2x4, that 8 square feet of drywall and paint and texture, and that's how detailed it needs to be. And they're going to catch that very easily because the estimate will say, Xactimate will say how many square foot the entire ceiling is, and they'll just look at that and then look at, oh yeah, this isn't approved.
Yeah.
And it's 8 square feet. What's that? Like $20?
Yeah.
But you have to have the paperwork. You have to have the documentation. One of the big reasons is, when you're doing a construction job for a homeowner, the homeowner is the one paying you, or a business owner. They're the one paying you. They're the one inspecting it. They're the one picking what they want done. They have complete control over that. When you're doing a job for a job that insurance is paying for, the adjuster's not even the really important person, because you have the homeowner involved, then you have the insurance adjuster, then you have the desk examiner who's reviewing what the adjuster did. Then you're going to have someone possibly higher at the insurance company, and then most importantly, you have the state that's going to come back and audit many of their estimates, which is what they're really worried about. Mm-hmm. So you're writing that estimate not for the homeowner who's standing in your house, but for a state auditor that's never going to see the house and never see anything except for your paperwork. So if your paperwork doesn't have the photos and the actual documentation and the explanation, that state examiner or auditor is going to say this is wrong. And now the insurance company's in trouble, and they could lose their license and be out of business because you didn't provide that documentation. So you have to write the estimate knowing that. And really the way that I worked with my team is everything we did, we had to do expecting to be sued, but not sued tomorrow, expecting to be sued in 5 years when you don't even remember that house whatsoever.
Right.
And if the paperwork's not at that level, then it's not where it should be.
Crazy. So now you did talk about the urgency side of things, and you grew your company pretty large, pretty significantly. But how are you able to do that and expand into these other regions? So, when a disaster strikes, you're needing 20, 30 people on site immediately.
That's cute. 20 or 30?
Yeah.
I wish. We had three main offices, Pensacola, Mobile, and Tallahassee. We were 70-ish full-time employees with 100% of our construction being subcontracted.
Okay.
When Sally hit, we went to about 1,200 employees, not direct, but 1,200 mitigation employees, and several hundred additional subcontractor construction guys in 2 days. So
It's just a few.
Yeah.
It's just a few.
It's having the different connections. So one of the things everyone says is, oh, there's so much money in insurance restoration. Yeah, not if you do it right. There's not. It's
Right.
fair money.
Right.
There's not this abundance of money, especially nowadays, because there's a extreme cost to maintaining the resources that you need to be able to scale. Because every single one of those 1,200 people had to be in some form of a uniform, which was safety vests. You know, we used to do T-shirts, but the problem with T-shirts is if you have 1,200 employees, that means I need 10,000 T-shirts sitting there.
Right.
That's a ton of space because you can't give them one shirt.
Right.
It's pretty nasty by the end of the day, let alone by the end of the week.
Right.
Whereas we did all logoed safety vests, logoed hard hats. But even then, maintaining 1,500 of those just sitting there, not knowing when I'm going to need any of them, that's a significant expense of them sitting there. And I may not use them for 5 years.
Right.
Or I may use them multiple times in the same week, same year. So it was having the relationships with the labor providers. There was times we are literally building man camps because we're bringing so many people in from out of town that the infrastructure is already damaged. There's nowhere to put them. So we have to build man camps so that they have somewhere to stay. It's having food resources, water. It's also then having connections with other restoration companies because those 1,200 were the people working under my company. And then under my company, I also had another 11 restoration contractors that were subcontracting for me during that event. But, one building we did, or one condo we did in Orange Beach had 8,000 pieces of equipment in it. We brought in somewhere around 15 box enclosed semis worth of equipment and another probably 20, semis with large equipment, large desiccants on it into town for that one event. Wow. So it's having the connections and having the resources and the backing. The other thing is every one of my employees, when an event like that should happen, should be able to shift their role to either one or two positions higher than what they are normally doing. And everyone should be able to shift their role laterally also. So my estimators now are project managers because I need them as a project manager for 2 weeks. Because that mitigation phase happens very quickly and it's over very quickly. So that was a big part of it. Another big part is knowing when to say no. So one of the largest condo complex in our area called me and said, hey, can you do this? And I said, nope. 7 days later, they called me and said, hey, we just fired the last company because they said they could and they couldn't. Can you do it? I'm like, yes, I can. I just finished up these 5 hotels. I can move my resources literally right down the street. Because I just finished these 5 hotels on the beach. Now I'll go handle these. But even then, that condo complex was large enough. I brought in other restoration subcontractors to help handle other buildings for me. So it was knowing what I can take and what I can't take is really the thing that I'd say has the biggest impact on the longevity of restoration companies. And the next thing that has a big impact on them is when they think that every year is going to be amazing.
Right.
We had 8 years of great hurricanes in Florida. Horrible for the insurance company, great for the restoration contractors. The last 2 years have been trash.
Yeah.
None last year, virtually none the year before. There's going to be a lot of companies that go out of business because they spent money those great years like that. Those great years were never going to end.
Right. Yeah, that's. I think people need to understand that conceptually of what kind of staging and equipment and other stuff like that you have basically just sitting. And it's a situation where when an event happens, you need it right then and it's expensive to use. But as you stated, it could be sitting for years until it's needed again. And you still have to upkeep it. You have to keep it ready to go.
Yeah, we had just a normal fire happen out on Pensacola Beach. It was somebody flicked a cigarette from one hotel to the large tiki bar next to it. It caught on fire. I was on site before the flames were gone. They were still putting water on it. And within 10 minutes of me being on site, I had 10 more people there. And they have a full lazy river with their pool. That was covered with ash. Their second floor meeting rooms were all covered with ash because everyone came out and wanted to watch it from that deck. And we had their pool reopened. That was on a Friday night. We had their pool reopened by noon on Saturday.
Yeah, jeez.
So, I'm standing there talking to their construction manager who they had, overseeing our work. And he's like, I hate your bill. I'm like, yeah, but it's a lot worse if you don't have it.
Right.
I'm like, I'm going to have 40 people here in the morning, and we're going to have, 30 pressure washers going in. There's all these resources that we're bringing in that you don't have, and it would take you weeks to do what we can do in a day.
Right. Yeah, that's the importance of it. So for homeowners, and from your experience on the other side of the aisle, I guess we'll say, what are some pointers that you have for them as far as things they can be doing with their insurance, or in case of like a disaster event does happen?
So much of everything's relationship.
Yeah.
Know who good restoration contractors are, or who's somebody that you can talk to that knows who they are. Okay. Because that's going to be the important thing. The reason I was able to be at that fire before the fire was put out was because I had a contract with that hotel. So as soon as I heard that there was a fire there, I got in my truck and started heading that direction. The guy in charge was at Disney, and he called me from Disney, hey, we have a problem. I was like, yeah, I know. I'm already headed there. So we already had a relationship that made things go much smoother. And it's having reputable companies that you can trust, and also making sure you have a reputable insurance agent that knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Because so nowadays, especially with all the online stuff, they'll sell you anything. I had a house that had a water damage. Talking to the owner, he's like, I'm not concerned about the coverage because we got out there late at night. He's like, I'm not concerned about the coverage. I pay a fortune for it. I know it's the best. Well, it ended up it wasn't. Mm-hmm. It was a HO. It was a policy that was only named perils. So it was only fire, lightning strike, the main events, hurricane. It didn't cover water leaks. Mm. Well, he went back to his agent, who was his friend, and talked to him and got a better policy for less money that would have covered that event had he had it and would have saved him money. But the friend didn't put the effort in, so he ended up with no coverage. Mm.
Yeah. Analyzing your policy and checking those things. I mean, every restoration project that I've been a part of from our side of it, the regular comment is underinsured, or they just flat out didn't have the insurance coverage for that incident.
Well, so when you think of an insurance adjuster, everyone thinks of an adjuster as someone who goes out and writes an estimate. When you get into the commercial world and the higher, bigger claims, those adjusters do not write estimates. Mm-hmm. They hire companies like yours to come in and write an estimate. They hire companies like mine to come in and do things. They don't need to know construction. They are insurance experts. Mm-hmm. They know policy. They know policy language. They know the laws, and they know how to deal with people. That's all your super high level adjusters do. Right. It's your low level, your first level adjusters are the ones that write estimates, but they're writing them on, a $5,000, tree on the house or something like that, not a condo that's entirely destroyed.
All right. Crazy. So, all right. And then let's talk about what you're doing now. Cause you sold your restoration company. So what are you doing now?
Well, for the next, 5 months, not restoration or anything to do with it. But in 5 months, I don't know exactly what that looks like. Primarily what I'm doing right now is I have a business consulting company. So I'm fortunate that I love business. Yeah. I didn't get into restoration wanting to clean up people's sewage when it overflowed. No? I didn't get it wasn't. I didn't get into restoration with the goal of, hey, I want to get a call at 2 a.m. when there's a fire. So, but I love business, and that happened to be what I fell into because remember I had a back when I was 14 and I got into carpet cleaning. Right. And what I really love is business. So I see so many people that they have a small business, they have a service business, they have, a medical business, anything like that, and they're amazing at what they do. They were the best dentist at the last practice. They're the best AC technician at the last company. So they go out and they start a business. And that's what they're really good at, is doing the work. But there's so much more that goes into a business that you have to know and have to do well for that business to exist and to continue to be successful. It's not just, hey, can I fix your AC? That's great. But as we've seen here locally recently, there's a couple contractors that I think they were great contractors at one point in time. Then they got too big and they didn't know the fundamentals of business. They didn't know cash management. They didn't know estimating. They didn't know, HR. They didn't know how to handle those aspects. And they got in too deep. As they did such good work, their companies continued to grow.
Right.
But without knowing how to run an actual business, they ended up getting in trouble, and now they're in jail because they didn't know how to run the business. And so what I like to do is, with any industry except for restoration, because of my non-compete, I've worked with chiropractors, I've worked with dentists, I've worked with commercial real estate companies, I've worked with roofing companies, siding companies, a startup rare earth metal recycling company. I've worked with all of those, and I don't need to be the expert. I don't want to be the expert at what they do. They're already the expert at that, but I want to help them figure out, how do I make this into a successful business? And so often also, those guys, they start the business, it's doing good, and they're working, 80 hours a week. And if they go on vacation, the company shuts down. Right. And as they get a little older, or as their kids move up, they can't sell it. They can't transition it because they are literally the entire company. So I love to partner with those types of companies and help them transition from having a miserable job that sometimes pays well, sometimes may not pay at all, to having an actual company that they can run and something that they can build and grow that's beyond them. So really, it's helping business owners accomplish that.
So what's the name of your consulting company, and how do people get a hold of you?
Cadence Consulting is the company, and cell phone, Shaun at Cadence, forgot my own email address.
It's okay. We'll put all the information in the text of this podcast, as well as tag you on all the socials. But
yeah, if you tag me on social media with it, we can put it in as a comment. That way they can get a hold of me. I'd love to. One of the things I've been blessed with having sold my company is I get to help other people. And the biggest reason is there's a lot of people that help me get to where I am that, I want to be able to give that around, turn that around and help other people get to where they want to go.
Yeah. And just as a plug to your assistance, you helped me as a friend on an item, and I really appreciate it. And that was, our company really was hitting a brick wall where there's only so much of my time to go around. And I understood the importance of me bringing on a second in command or a COO for my company. And however, as we discussed, it's very important to have your spouse in your conversations and understanding of what you're doing, because it's not just you, right? We're doing this for a reason, and my reason is my wife and kids.
Yep.
That's husband and father are my favorite jobs, and so you help me how to basically sell it to my wife of the importance of us bringing on this person to allow me to have the time and the freedom to do all the things that she still wanted me to be able to do while also growing the company.
Yeah, especially growing the company, because it opened you up to be able to start new aspects of the company that you weren't before. Yeah, and the biggest thing there is so often it's hard to see all of the reasons, all of the secondary effects, see the whole picture when you're in the middle of it. And right. I'll be honest, almost my entire career of owning Complete DKI, I had a business consultant. I worked with them. There was sometimes I worked heavily with them. Sometimes I had them work with my, other employees, but I had one because there was times where, hey, I need to make a phone call and I have some really difficult questions I need to discuss, and I can't discuss it with any of my team.
Right.
I need somebody who's been there, done that, and can help me through that.
That's very important. Well, awesome, man. I appreciate you being on the podcast, and that ends it for the Build Better Home podcast. If you enjoyed what you listened to, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you'd like to get a hold of Shaun, we'll provide his information in the comments below. Thank you so much.